This is WRKO. We're talking to the candidates for governor. And let's start with you, Tim Cahill, because you have to leave soon to make another appointment. The federal government is trying to kidnap the ability of states to control education by shifting to a national standards model. This is particularly unfortunate for the state of Massachusetts, which has amongst the highest standards in the country. How do you feel about weakening MCAS? How do you feel about losing local control? Would you support what Barack Obama is pushing?
I would not. I think we have the best system, and the governor deserves a lot of credit for this. We have the best system, public education system statewide, I think, in the nation. We've got the highest standards. And I think what we proved under Tom Finneran and the legislature back in the 90s and when Charlie was under Bill Weld, if you set high standards, the students and the teachers and the administrators will rise to the occasion. I'm not in favor of weakening MCAS. I think we should strengthen it. I think we should add a U.S. history portion to MCAS. I think our students should know history here in Massachusetts and the country, because if you don't know it, I would do nothing about what the president is trying to get us to do. I don't think it's like healthcare. I don't think one size fits all. We're a leader here in Massachusetts on education, both public and private education, higher and K-12. And I think we've worked hard. We've spent a lot of money on teachers, on education, on certification, on all those kind of things, and to take a step backwards to go to some national model that may work in Illinois, it may work in Washington, D.C., but it's not going to keep us in the front. We lose our advantage, because education is one of our competitive advantages that we have here in the state. We lose it if we water it down. So I'm not in favor of the national model. Whether the teachers' unions want it or whether teachers want it, I think that we have to keep pushing our students so that they rise to the occasion.
Charlie, you want to take a swing at that?
Yeah, I completely agree with Tim on that one. I was on the Board of Education when we put those standards in place and when we created the frameworks, and there was a tremendous amount of pushing and shoving in response to that, and I still believe it was the right thing to do. And I'm scared to death, frankly, for the kids in Massachusetts when I hear chatter and talk coming out of the Board of Education and the Secretary of Education and the Governor's office that we may change the way we do this and stop being the national leader. Look, we finish in the lowest 10 across almost every single category you can think of in terms of the cost of everything in Massachusetts from a competitive point of view. The one place we shine is in education, and we should do everything in our power to maintain our position with regard to that, because it's fundamental to our success as a state. I was at Brockton High School a couple of weeks ago, and Brockton High School has some of the best MCAS scores in the state. It's an urban school system. They graduate about 90% of the kids who start ninth grade there, 98% of the kids who graduate go on to higher education, and they basically said point blank to me that MCAS and their performance on MCAS 10 years ago, which was awful, was a warning bell for them. The alarm bell sounded, and they worked over the course, teachers, administrators, everybody, over the course of the next decade to dramatically improve what they expected from their kids, and they got the performance they were seeking. And I think the last thing we should do is walk away from that. And I also think, frankly, that we are falling behind a number of other states and a number of other categories as well in terms of holding, using teacher evaluations and tying those to student performance and creating a better link between student performance and teacher evaluations. And I think there are a lot of things we should be doing to continue to drive this issue as hard as we possibly can, because it is, in many respects, the great opportunity to give a disadvantaged kid an opportunity for the future if you do a good job giving him him or her a good education. And it is, in many ways, one of our great competitive advantages as a state.
Governor?
First of all, I think this may be one area where we agree, and I want to vigorously clear up Charlie's assertion that there's chatter coming out of the governor's office that we would walk away from MCAS or our high standards. I'm very proud of our standards. I'm proud of our leadership nationally.
So you're going to resist the national standards and not be on board?
No. What I've said, I'm going to say to you what I said to the Secretary of Education. If the national standards are at least as ambitious as ours, then we would support them. If they are not, we won't.
But what if next year they lower them?
And by the way, well, then you pull out. It's not that complicated. That's why.
Why give up the sovereignty over it?
That's why we love, because the whole nation needs to raise its standards. We are not a sovereign nation. We are part of a national community, and just as education is our calling card to the whole world here in the Commonwealth, the nation needs to raise its standards. So, what I have said to the Secretary and to the President when asked about it is that we, as the standard leader, would support national standards, provided they
Governor,
are no.
but you're tying yourself to the political dynamics in 49 other states.
Let me just finish.
We
first
are
of all,
the leader. Why would
that's
we
what I'm
change
saying.
anything?
That's what I'm saying. Right. We are the leader, so we don't have to. We're certainly not going to step back. Right. And it's the reason, by the way, why we didn't win Race to the Top.
I disagree on that one. We didn't win Race to the Top because we don't evaluate teachers.
If I can finish, Charlie, the reason we didn't win Race to the Top and the reason we were marked down is because we were asked as a condition to sign on to standards no one had even seen. And we said, there's no way we're going to do that. Why in the world would we jeopardize one of the signature elements of this education system? We were docked, I think, 15, 20 points, and that was the edge.
That was we lost a bunch of points on that thing, Governor, and many of them had to do with things that were specific to Massachusetts beyond testing. That was one of many elements, and I think we are losing our edge a little bit on this stuff. And as a state, we need to continue to be aggressive about pursuing reform and pursuing closing the achievement gap and pursuing continued excellence because, and it wasn't just about the test. I mean, we missed, we were down 60 or 70 points overall, and the test was about 10. There were a whole bunch of other things where other states
First
are
of all,
making
I got to say, you are, your points are great, but your facts are just wrong. I mean, we have spent so much time and money and effort and thought assuring that our education system continues to move forward. And the hallmark of any organization, successful organization, is continuous improvement. We got the Ed Reform Bill through, the most sweeping Ed Reform Bill in 17 years, and it was all about trying to address that achievement gap, because for the 17 years we've been on this path of improving the public schools. And I think you were there, Charlie, when Ed Reform was done back in the Weld years, and kudos for setting us on this path. But we've also had a persistent achievement gap. And stuck in that gap are poor children and children with special needs or who speak English as a second
Governor,
language.
why did we retreat then from the history MCAS?
Because
everybody's on the page verbally, but nobody's.
We delayed it for cost reasons.
But that was a couple $1 million, was it not?
No, it was a lot more than that. A lot more than that.
Well, and the
it's just
point is,
we got to get. Tim is right. We need. In fact, I'd add civics. As another element, we put science in place, but we had to stand down just for cost reasons. For the time
one of the points, and you can get in all these points and race to the top. One of the problems I have is, again, it goes back to my original point. If we allow the federal government with a carrot, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, to move our stick around, to make sure that we lower standards or do something that is not in the best interest of our children, we lose, and we become dependent on them. Once we go on that path, we lose. And I don't think we're just competing against other states. I think we're competing against other countries.
I agree with that.
We're competing against Israel. We're competing against Europe. We're competing against Asia.
We found a common point of agreement.